Okay, today I'm going to be listening to another piece by Messiaen. It's called Morning of the Birds, Réveil des oiseaux, and I believe it was written in 1951. So apart from maybe a few piano pieces, I think this is the first piece that Messiaen wrote on birdsong. This is his first big birdsong essay. He wrote it for his second wife, Yvonne Loriod. Possibly they were not married yet. She was a pianist as well, and I think premiered this work. It's written in memory of Jacques Delamain. He had an important influence on Messiaen. They were both fascinated with birds, and Messiaen would visit Delamain at his country home. And he would sort of guide Messiaen to further systematize his transcription of bird songs. So this is kind of an interesting interdisciplinary relationship, collaboration between an artist and a natural scientist, basically, or naturalist, you could say. Maybe it was composed like a bit earlier, but it was premiered in 1953. Therefore, it was dedicated to Jacques shortly after he died. The full instrumentation is 4-3, 4-3, I think. Yeah. So 4-3-4-3, 2-2-0-0, two percussionists, celesta, xylophone, glockenspiel. So there's a third percussionist, I guess, just on the pitch stuff, and then a pianist. And the orchestra is requires 8 of every musician, I guess. So like 4 stands each. And percussion 1 is on temple blocks and suspended cymbal. Percussion 2 is just on wood block and tam-tam. So it's a pretty lean little ensemble. One of the flautists is on piccolo. One of the oboists is on English horn. One of the clarinetists is on bass. Another clarinetist is on E flat. And that is that. Okay. What's kind of interesting about this piece is in the score, ahead of the piece, you get sort of a roster of birds that are featured throughout the piece in the order of their appearance, starting with the nightingale and ending with the wood pigeon. I think all of these birds are ones that Messiaen would have observed in France. And yeah, maybe just before we get into the piece, I'm gonna like show you what all the birds are, and I'll say a little bit about like what musicians have to imitate each of them, because I think at one point I really went through the score in some detail. So yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I was gonna go through the score for each bird and like try to compile all the different instrumentations, but I think I don't really have time for that. It would make more sense just to pull up each bird. I have here like the birds of metropolitan France. So I'll pull up each bird so you can see what it looks like, and then show you their first appearance in the score, because I mean that should suffice in showing you what the song looks like. So and at least one instrumentation for it. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a process. We're going to go down the list. So we start with the nightingale. This is the first big piano solo we have. I have it circled in black here. And I think this would be the common nightingale. This guy. And it comes back a little bit later with clarinet, flute, and piano, and I think sometimes you get celesta playing this stuff. So it's not just strictly the piano that has to play this thing, but the big moment is the opening. Okay? Then we have the little owl, There it is in the first violin solo. I have it in blue. We don't actually, yeah. So this is what we're talking about here. This guy. That's your violin. Next we have the wry neck, which appears. It's called the torcol in French. It appears in the piano on page 3. Probably this little guy. Then in the E-flat clarinet, we get the Buscarl, Seti's warbler. This is just a bush warbler, and I believe it only comes in the E-flat clarinet. I might be wrong, but this might be a dedicated part to this bird. In green here, this really high line is the woodlark. It looks like this. It's very tiny, as you can imagine. This, I think, is only in the solo piccolo. So this is a big piccolo part in this score. So the common blackbird is actually plays a huge role in this piece. It dominates the middle of the score. The first time we get it is actually in the celesta on this page, and then it gets passed into the piano solo. But we also hear it on clarinets and flutes, and I think some woodblock. So yeah, blackbird is a really huge feature, kind of centerpiece of the piece. I should mention that this piece sort of depicts a sunrise. So some of these birds are more nocturnal. This is the nightjar. You only really hear it in the opening of the piece because that's when it's nighttime, whereas it's sort of the day later on. And yeah, the nightjar first occurs in a group of instruments. Looks like the second violin, 2 violas, and 2 cellos. I have it in purple here. That's the nightjar. I think it just pops up for 2 measures here, and comes back on the suspended cymbal and tam-tam, along with the same strings, right? So it's this like tremolo kind of sustained idea. It's kind of weird. I guess it also is in the percussion up here too. So this is an important use of the cymbals and tam-tam from the 2 percussionists, is for the nightjar song. This is the chiff-chaff. It comes up, I think, maybe I'm missing it. Okay, yeah, I didn't highlight it here, but you can see it in the celesta very briefly. This little celesta line. The European robin is actually also a huge part in this. So there's a lot of blackbird, there's a lot of robin, and it's another one of those birds that like might be for a soloist, might be for a group of soloists, or for an ensemble. It sort of is. The song is a little bit more malleable, and the first time we get it is in the piano. I have it in red here, and yeah, it's introduced very early on in the piece, but then you can see towards the middle of the piece we just have a lot of like blackbird and robin at the same time. So this weird kind of song which interrupts the whole flow of the piece at a different tempo, and for like a lot of musicians, is the song thrush, this bird here. And I have it in blue. Its first appearance on page 4 is for second oboe, second clarinet in B flat, first trumpet in B flat. This might be our first brass entrance, and a bunch of violas and violins divisi. So it's violins, like all the second violins basically, or half of them. Sorry, it's second violins 5 through 8, and violas 5 through 8. Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Messiaen even writes this sort of like alliteration of the bird song. Edidi edidi tiu 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 tuhite. Authoritarian incantation kind of bird. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. The chaffinch is the next bird to make an appearance. And, oh no, it's my mistake. So the chaffinch is actually this thing I have highlighted in purple, which comes in two of the first violins, but it comes in at the same time as the missile thrush in another violin. This is what the missile thrush looks like. So those birds come in at the same time. The white throat, I'm assuming it's a common white throat, but it may be a different type. This comes in the dark blue here in the piano solo, and it's quite a large solo actually, which sort of like subdivides this kind of form that's going on with the missile thrush and the chaffinch. And then here in blue we get something interesting. We get the cuckoo, I guess. Yeah, so the cuckoo is our first bird that is only in the percussion, as well as this guy here, the great spotted woodpecker. So I'll pull them up. Here's a cuckoo, a common one. And the great spotted woodpecker is this thing with the red on its head. And these two sort of demarcate form in the piece a little bit, so they have a very strange use. But yeah, it's like temple blocks is the cuckoo, and it's immediately answered by the woodpecker on the wood block. And obviously this is like not a bird song from the woodpecker, it's literally hammering a tree, which is kind of a fun like twist on the format, I guess. Then, so this is after this. So we've introduced 15 of the birds. This is where sort of like the first major section of the piece ends, and then we get into the middle section of the piece, which is like kind of a big build-up of parts, starting again with the nightingale. On page 10, we finally get a new bird. This is the melodious warbler, and it's actually passed between piano, viola, oboe, and first violin. This is what it looks like. And then this song continues on the piano, getting tossed to the violin again at the very end. And we get an introduction of a couple new things here right after. So the Eurasian hoopoe, this funky looking thing, comes in here in yellow, and it's all winds, so it's the first time we get this sort of like chordal wind bird thing. Two oboes, second oboe, English horn, second clarinet in B flat, and bassoons 1 and 2. And this might be our first big bassoon moment, actually. The green woodpecker, this is our third woodpecker technically, comes in here in 3 of the first violins. And it's a very quick little thing that sort of just rounds out the hoopoe call. The dunnock, this little guy, comes in next, accompanying a robin. And it comes in the glockenspiel and xylophone. This is their first entrance. And I think it gets passed to the violin, I'm not sure. This guy, the first violin, which I also have in blue, is actually the house sparrow. This guy just gets a short little melody on the violin here. All the while, the robin is still singing in the celesta. Yeah, moving forward, the next really big piano solo is robin. So that goes to show how important the robin is in this piece. In orange here, I have the entrance of the red start. So for a while, we just have robins and blackbirds. Then in the xylophone, we get a red start. Assuming it's a common red start, it looks like this. Just one of them in the xylophone. Then on page 19, we get a very important bird to Messiaen, the golden oriole. Its French name, l'oriole, sounds like the pianist's and future wife of Messiaen's last name. So Messiaen is sort of like has, I don't know if he has said this explicitly, but it seems that he had compared his second wife to this particular bird, and it first appears in the horns, violins 1 through 4, second violins 1 through 4, and altos or violas 1 through 4, as well as the cello. And this is a big horn entrance in the piece. I think it's the first time we actually get horn. And this is what the bird looks like. So obviously a very pretty, iconic looking bird, representing or as a stand-in for the composer's love, object of his affection, who is, you have to remember, is also playing piano in this ensemble in the premiere. Okay, nice. Next we have the carrion crow, I think. Carrion crow looks like this. I think we all know what a crow looks like. It, as you can imagine, the cawing, it has it's a big moment for the double reeds. So this is like the big bassoon bird, you could say. It comes here in the 3 bassoons, and they're playing these dense harmonies in their mid to upper range. And yeah, it's in black here. I don't know if you can really see it, but there's where the crow enters on page 20. And then I can't remember, I think the magpie is like a bass clarinet part. See if I can find it. Yeah, there they are. So right after another hoopoe moment in the bassoons, we get this low G, A flat trill in the bass clarinet. And this is the magpie. So you can see some of the auxiliary winds, like the piccolo, the E flat clarinet, and the bass clarinet now. They have specific roles, kind of like the tempo blocks and wood blocks. You know, they just do one song, and it's the same every time, and they show up in different contexts. Whereas other birds are more, you could say, lead roles, and they're in many different groups of instruments. Others, it's just one of the instruments has a bird that they play. And next on the scene is the blackcap. I'm assuming it's a Eurasian blackcap. Yeah, the blackcap doesn't come until this huge piano solo on page 42, right? So we've introduced a bunch of birds. We kind of stay there for a long time. I guess that's sort of the sunrise moment. And now it's the day, and we get a lot of interesting solo bird things. The blackcap is the first to open this section, and it's, again, a huge piano solo, like 1.5 pages. Next is the turtle dove. Let's see where it comes in. It comes in here. It's 3 flutes playing together. There's a little bit of flutter tonguing. It's in purple here. I know I keep gesturing with my cursor as if you can see it, but yeah, so turtle dove is up here. The blue tit is the next bird to make an appearance. Again, we're like nearing the end of the piece here. And yeah, here it is. It's these 3 short bursts of sound from oboe, English horn, bassoon, piano, and bass's pizzicato. Haven't seen a lot of bass thus far, so it's kind of interesting. And it's followed immediately by a new bird, the linnet. This would be the common linnet. So actually, we go quite a ways before we get this next one. You can see there's a huge blackbird solo in the piano towards the end of the piece. In the xylophone, like super high xylophone, we get this thing. The wren. This little guy is playing the xylophone. In the first and second flute in green here, I have highlighted the next bird, which is the garden warbler. And then in pink, in the xylophone, we have the willow warbler. The garden warbler looks like this. The willow warbler is more like a chiff-chaff. It looks completely different. It's this thing here. Green finch is up next. Let's see if I can find him. Ah, there we go. It's this tiny little chromatic running thing in the piano. I have it in green here. It's not the violin thing up here. It's this little guy. A male greenfinch actually looks more yellow. It looks like this. Then we have the European Messiaen, which is this gorgeous yellow bird. Comes in this piano solo, which I have highlighted in blue, which sort of brackets these interjections of the golden oriole and blackcap. Right, so it's sort of in this trio almost. The blue down here is back to the wren, but it's accompanied by a new one, I think. The nuthatch. Oh no, we've gone past the nuthatch. Yeah, so the piano has the nuthatch. Then we get the wren accompanied by another new one, the goldfinch. Here's what a nuthatch looks like, more or less. Probably not one from France, but... And a European goldfinch, if you've never seen one, is this very striking bird with red and yellow on it. Interestingly, the starling is one of the last birds we get. And it's in pink here. It's another one in the piano. So like towards the end of the piece we have a lot more piano solo, and it's going through all kinds of different bird songs, and you really have to know what they sound like in order to follow, because here we get two new birds back to back, the starling and then Bonelli's warbler. I'm assuming it's a European starling or common starling, and then we'll say Western Bonelli's warbler, I'm assuming, so like this thing. The last bird that is introduced in the piece is the wood pigeon. And it's in the left hand of the piano, very briefly, just here in purple. So that's the last bird we have introduced in the piece. The last bird we hear, we have this exchange between the golden oriole and the blackbird, and then we have a huge robin solo with more blackbirds thrown in. Actually, no, this is something else. Sorry, a huge redstart solo. Then we get more robin and blackbird at the same time. And I think that's how the piece ends. No, we get the cuckoo ending it, actually. If you lay out all the different birds, you can kind of see form that the piece has, right? Whoop. So you can see that at the beginning there's a very long, I tried to make this all proportional to like every to the measure at least, so the measure is like the smallest unit here, but you can see that the cuckoo kind of divides the piece up into sections, right? You get it at the very end, you get it here after the nightingale solo. I think you get it again before this big build-up. Obviously this big build-up is the sunrise, and you can see it has like 5 blackbirds and 4 robins and a redstart, and you can see like the golden oriole is playing all throughout, and the last thing to be introduced is the magpie. And then after that you get a lot of solos for a really long time, and you can see towards the end more and more birds are being introduced at kind of the same rate as in the opening, but it's a lot of piano solo stuff in the last section here. There's almost too many different birds to really visualize what's going on unless you can keep track of like 36 different colors or whatever. But I think it's kind of interesting to see especially at the beginning, like you can kind of see formal things going on, right? You can see how the piccolo in green here sort of breaks up the opening into these little sections. You have the three blackbirds also breaking it up. And, I think there's a lot of compositional kind of sensibility in how things are introduced and juggled. And, yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you really just think about what birds are singing when, the piece already has this sort of formal logic to it. And why not? Why not get to know what all these birds sound like so you can fully appreciate this piece the way that Messiaen would appreciate it? So yeah, thanks for humoring me with my little analysis. This is one of those pieces which I bothered to analyze in some sort of way. Not that my teacher could be bothered, but maybe I can bother you. Maybe other composers will find this kind of inspiring. Let's have a listen. I would listen along with the score. You don't have to mark it up like I did, but the score does tell you when every bird enters, and I think it does make the listening more enjoyable to kind of know what's going on a little bit. The recording I'm listening to is in the video description. Don't be afraid to pause it and come back to hear my opinions on the piece after this listen here. Okay, yeah, so my impressions of this, I kind of regret doing all the explanation before listening to it rather than after, because now I'm really associating all of the different bird calls with the instruments, and it's kind of coming back to me how it all fits together. But yeah, it's a super fun listen. I forgot how much of it is piano. It's really a sparing use of the orchestra. There's some orchestra members that are only used in a couple of bird songs, like the basses and the bassoons. Then there's other orchestra members that have a ton of use, and then there's the piano, which dominates the piece. This particular recording is Pierre Boulez conducting the Cleveland Orchestra, and the pianist is Pierre-Laurent Aymard, who does a great job with it. I think this performance did a good job of capturing the sound of birds. It all feels very light and effortless. Even when you have those couple of birds like the golden oriole and I forget the name of it, but the grieved musician, the two that have brass in them, it feels very light, and it's almost like the other instruments are just lightly coloring the brass lines with those two. And the call and response stuff in the piano, when there's more than one of the same bird and they're supposed to be in different areas, they're at different dynamics, that was really well done. So I think the dynamics were carefully managed, and I think it is quite a quiet piece overall. There's that big climactic build in the middle of it, but around that there's just a lot of silence and sort of quiet, intricate, almost contemplative kind of bird sounds, basically. And I like that about it. It has a very sort of naturalist sensibility almost, and it's also just a very fun show-offy kind of piece. We're going to be listening to another Messiaen piece in our next session. I believe it's the Tarangalila Symphony, which is a very long piece. This is a little bit lighter and short, although as you can tell it's very dense with ideas. I think this is sort of a must listen if you want to know what Messiaen's bird song is about. It's historically significant. It's the first one. It's easy to listen to, and it's easy to parse out, and you can clearly tell where all the different bird songs are coming from and how they're interacting. There's something a bit theatrical about it. So Yeah, that's it for that one.